absolute cluster. Fine. But beneath its ugly facade, a shockingly well-oiled machine is taking form, quietly humming. Did I say quietly? Because this space next to it for our social media team is completely unusable, even with the door closed. I mean, we've solved some of the problems since the last progress update. For example, we sealed this gap in the wall that was bothering our Mac people. Our BFCS, or box fan cooling system, has been replaced by 15,000 watts of cooling capacity. And if you just tilt the camera down a little bit, the cable management has actually improved. Yeah. But it's freaking loud. And we don't even have the really loud equipment in there yet. Now, you guys criticized me pretty hard when I DIY sound deadened the studio server room, and, well, I get it. It wasn't pretty, but it worked shockingly well, and it isn't a fire hazard. Reddit, though that doesn't mean that we're just gonna do the same thing again. Our DIY philosophy isn't changing, but we're gonna do it way better this time, and we'll be doing the entire room for less than $2,000, which sounds like a lot of money because it is, but compared to the cost of a professional solution, it's a steal. In the original server room, we used recycled denim insulation as our sound absorbing material. And that stuff worked great, but it's on the more expensive side, it's tricky to source locally, and it is a pain in the scrotum to work with. So this time, we're gonna be using a few different materials. First up is a layer of 3/8" OSB, or oriented strand board. This is a really inexpensive wood sheet product that we already put on the walls to make mounting our insulation easier. If we hadn't done this, what we could have done is try to hit studs or use drywall anchors, but that would have made the process take forever. Unless we just didn't worry about any of that and just hoped our nails would stick into the drywall. Next up, we're adding a layer of what's called sonopan. This stuff is super cool, and I wish I'd known about it when we did my theater room. It's a recycled wood sound insulation material that's unfortunately only really easily available in Canada. It's kind of like if MDF and fiberglass insulation had a baby, but in spite of the fact that it's practically made of sawdust, it's still strong enough that you can screw it onto the wall with drywall screws. If the goal is to eliminate reflections within the room, this might not be the best product for you. It's a very dense material. But if the goal is to prevent sound from escaping the room, this be your guy. And this ain't hurting things. Because our goal, though, is to both stop sound from escaping the room and also to eliminate reflections, which helps keep sound from escaping the room. Once the sonopan is on, we're gonna basically do what I did last time. But way better. First up, instead of UltraTouch denim batting, we've gone with Rockwool Safe and Sound, which is a sound-specific insulation material that's meant for the interior walls of houses.
Yeah, Linus, the interior of walls. Why didn't you put it in the interior?
Of course I thought of that! It's already in the inside! It's still loud! We're adding more! Where do we start?
A baseline.
Loudness, sound pressure level is measured in dB, but there are different kinds of dB. You have dBA, you have dBc. The A and the C are filters, and they exclude some part of the spectrum from the calculation.
So we want dBc because we care about this broad frequency range.
We're going to get both of them. First, we want to see how much noise we have in different parts of the spectrum. For a few seconds, we have to be quiet.
Impossible.
This is the spectrum of the noise. We have quite a bit of noise at 120 Hertz, which is the sound of the transformer upstairs. But the rest of the noise is actually pretty uniform throughout the spectrum. Maybe it's a bit less in the treble range, but you have a lot of noise in the bass, a lot of noise in the mid-range.
And this is what we would describe as like a white noise.
Yes, so it's a broadband noise, which if you have all of the noise at the same level at all frequencies, you get white noise.
But even white noise is annoying if it's loud enough.
Yes.
And what we're looking at is, what, about anywhere from 55 to 60 decibels?
Yeah, so the overall numbers that I'm getting is 65.2 dBc and 53.8 dBA. But again, we care about dBc more because we have quite a bit of noise in the bass range as well.
Okay. Now that would make for a pretty unpleasant working environment.
Yes.
Then. For comparison, here's Jake's desk.
So green is here, red was downstairs. A bit more noise in the bass range here. This is going to be less audible, it's going to be more rumble.
Okay, because that's our HVAC, right?
Yeah. dBc here is actually louder. It is 67.5 Downstairs was 65.2, but dBA is a lot quieter here. It's 43.3 dBA here. The low range noise is more like rumble, so it's less bothersome. This is more annoying.
From an evolutionary standpoint, like we're tuned to hear this range way more acutely.
Yes, for speech and dialogue, yes.
Got it. Last time around, I mounted the insulation with long nails through the outer duvetine at the end to tack both my cloth and my insulation onto the wall. And while it's mostly intact all these years later, we've ended up having to do a fair bit of red-green engineering to keep everything happy. So we went back to the drawing board and designed our own custom insulation holding plates inspired by the plastic washers they use when sound deadening some music studios.
We even added teeth because it makes the rock wall stick a little better.
Oh, that's cool. They're 3D printed.
Yeah.
Each plate gets an oversized number 10 washer and a 4-inch wood screw. Then we just hold the rock wool up, and it's just long enough to reach through our sauna pan into our OSB without mushing down our insulation too much. That's not something we want. Then, like last time, we're gonna be using duvetine to keep the insulation from shedding all over the room and clogging up our servers. All these years later, it's still one of the cheapest fire retardant fabrics that we could get our hands on, and since it has some thickness to it, there's a chance it could help contribute to our sound deadening? I really don't think so. Anyway, the plan is to use some custom hanger plates that we also 3D printed to hold it up to the ceiling. Then we're gonna use some of the super strong magnets that are gonna be part of our upcoming cable management arches. And for the walls, we're basically just gonna put down the duvetine, stick these magnets to our oversized washers, and Bob's your uncle.
But first, we need to do some prep. Most of the insulation we're using is pretty good about not shedding, but we're definitely gonna wanna cover up some of the non-essential equipment that's not running in the rack so it doesn't get so dusty. Garbage bag and some tape. Jamie, go down the side of that piece now. Oh, you're already on it. Look at you go. Don't worry about it. It's sealing to the wall. Worry about the face. Yeah. Now between each panel, you can see Jamie is using some goop. This is called AcoustiSeal. It's kind of like a butyl rubber that doesn't really ever dry.
It sucks.
It sucks. And you can see he's wearing gloves. It's because it's incredibly messy. If you get this on your hands, like,
It sucks.
that's the cheese pull you don't want. Sonopan recommends using this to improve the effectiveness by filling all of the gaps between the sheets, but we don't technically have to use it. It's just that we're going through all this effort already, so adding 30 seconds to goop, well, 30 seconds if Jamie was a little faster, but 30 seconds to goop, it's worth it. I do really like screwing. It's a very important art form. The Sonopan doesn't shed much when it's just sitting there, but when you're bringing it into the room and like cutting holes and trying to tuck it into tight spots, it starts to shed a lot. So the air in here was getting kind of crusty, and we devised taking this furnace filter and putting it on the back of this box fan to try to pick up a bunch of the dust, I guess, and it's starting to go green. Can you see?
Hello, we had a tube breach.
That's a lot of product. The only redeeming quality about using this stuff is it doesn't really dry. So if you put this up here and we put this sheet on in like an hour, it's still gonna be pretty much just as supple as it is right now. While the other guys are working on finishing up the Sonopan, I'm installing a door seal on this door. But the real secret is this drop seal. It mounts on the door itself, and when you shut the door, this little pin pushes in, pushes the seal down. And you open the door, it goes back in. This is really starting to feel like when you're drilling into a wall and it's not going anywhere, and then you find out you've been drilling into a water pipe. Yeah! Ah! The maximum gap this seal can cover is just over 20 millimeters, and I just measured the bottom of this door is about 13 or 14 millimeters gap. So we have a bunch of extra playroom. That means I can mount this just flush with the bottom of the door. I've set that where I think it needs to go, so when we shut the door, it pushes that pin in, which pushes the seal down. So in theory, cool.
Wow, it sounds like a BMW. Nothing.
It's a metal door, so we have to use self-tappers like this that drill into the door, and it's a little more time consuming, but It looks like a room out of a horror movie, right? Like some bad stuff is happening in here.
Yeah. The results, though. And
Oh my God, it's so much quieter. It's still mostly through the door, so I think what I should do is put another layer of the green stuff, and then with the rock wall, I think it'll be pretty good.
Well, the dBc number hasn't changed because we're still dominated by the 120 hertz sound from the transformer.
you heard it here first. I'm dominated.
But the dBA number has gone down from 54 dBA to 49 dBA, and this is what it looks like. So pretty similar to Jake's desk.
We do have a solution for the transformer, though. We're gonna buy these rubber isolating pucks and put them underneath because they're hard mounted to
It's
that.
a resonance thing. You can tell just from the sound of it.
Yeah, there's like concrete and it's just bolted to it. It's like giant concrete speaker. Linus was hyping up this bandsaw, but Alex said it's really easy to cut it like this, so let's see. Wow, that cut through it like it wasn't even there. As much as having a window to the outside in your server room is kind of awesome, it's not very good for sound and not very good for security. Now, to fix that, there is a big set of metal bars that go in front of here, but we also want to sound isolate this a little bit because this reverberates back really hard. What we're gonna do is stuff Rockwall behind the bars and then put the bars in place. I put Rockwall on all the bottom. The top piece of the window, I was thinking I'd just leave open because having a little bit of light is kind of nice. Hey, watch it, all right? Should we put duvetine behind the bar? Can you measure the height? And add 3 inches on either side? There you go, cameraman. Oh. Thin duve. I love just like every time I see Dan, I'm like, what the is wrong with him? But like in the best way. Oh, this stuff cuts wonderfully. Wow, it's like paper. So many amazing materials we're using. In retrospect, probably should have cleaned the windows before we put the bar back on. Well, you know. I don't want it to look like but this is all stuff that I put on there myself, so I'm just having fun being a glorified garbage can. Woo! Look at how much better the window looks. We've pretty much finished every last piece of Sonopan. There's a couple around the HVAC unit, but it might need to get serviced, so we're leaving those for now. And it's finally time for Rockwall. We're trying to plan out the best way to do it, and because the Rockwall is roughly 4 feet by 2 feet, and these sheets are roughly 4 feet wide, we're thinking we can place them vertically here, and then on the top, we twist them sideways, and that should fill most of the gap. It's been probably 15 minutes and we've already got that whole back wall done and this wall almost done. This is way faster than hanging up the green stuff. And to be honest, these little hangers are working beautifully. I'm actually stoked. Every part of this project so far has gone pretty close to mint, aside from a little bit of a mess up there, but that's fine. It looks good now though, right? I like the natural light. See, I cut it perfectly, right?
Amazing.
See, like didn't even screw up at all. I didn't actually, I left extra so it would butt up with this nicely. Okay, let me get you. These are the worst scissors ever. Oh, look at that. Man, most of the hair that I cut off has nothing in it.
I mean, you can't look any worse than you do.
If this piece feels f***y.
Okay, hold on. Okay, that one's good.
Oh, there's a lot in that one.
Yeah.
The rock wool is basically done, and we're finally, oh my gosh. This is like almost the end of day 2 at let's put some duvetine on time. We 3D printed some little washer plate things. Alex has got one in his mouth right there to hold the duvetine on a little bit. Those are gonna go into the ceiling, and then it should just hang down. We'll put the magnets on and tuck it in the bottom. All right, I guess it's time to go get Sam and measure how much of a difference this rock wool makes.
It's wild because no matter how many times I experience this, it never fails to weird me out. As soon as you put this less dense absorbing material on the wall, it's like you can only hear the server coming from that side, and then this side is just quiet.
And it is, the rack itself is way quieter. Like the sound level in here is like, feels like half of what it was before.
Anyway, let's fire it up so that all the exact same servers are running as when we tested before, and let's get our after measurement. I haven't told Jake, But now what we gotta do is treat the whole studio like this, right? That's still very impressive. I mean, I already know the answer because I can hear it with my ears, but please do quantify.
I haven't measured it yet, so we're gonna find out together. Let's be quiet for like a few seconds.
Oh, it would have been really funny to slap him in the nuts.
All right. Well, the first number we had was 53.8 dBA. The second number was 49.1 dBA. The last number is 47.3 dBA. So actually, the wine is pretty much.
We did
gone.
get rid of the wine because I was looking at this curve going, it's this one right here that was annoying. And
Exactly.
what's our drop here? We're going from almost 55 to almost 45.
Yeah, 10 dB.
And you said 10 decibels is roughly half.
Perceptually, it's half as loud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So this looks like a pretty subtle change, but because it's right in that annoying,
It is.
it's a huge difference. And it affects the office side of things too. That's a lot better.
To be clear, this door is not really treated yet.
Yeah, it's gonna be even better.
It doesn't have a proper seal on it.
If you guys enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy the time that I did this by myself with worse tools, worse materials, and in a more cramped space. It was truly one of the most awful working experiences I've ever had.
This was not that bad. My arms are a little itchy. You want some?
Thanks.
you.